All right, very good. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. This afternoon, we have two items remaining on our agenda. We have an applicant out of Vance County, and then we have a reconsideration. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Rackley.
Okay. Good afternoon. So our final first round applicant for the month of October is Sledge Institute out of Vance County. In year one, serving grades K2 and grade 6 with 125 students. Rounding out year 5 with K10, 550 students. Sledge Institute plans to be a fully K-12 school by year 7, serving 700 students. Sledge Institute will participate in the National School Lunch Program. They do not anticipate providing transportation services in their beginning operation years, but they do have like van purchasing in their transportation plan, and they can discuss that further. They will not utilize a weighted lottery. They are looking at Vance County at large, so they have not identified an exact quadrant in Vance County. They are not a repeat applicant, nor will they use an EMO or CMO. Application was deemed complete by the Office of Charter Schools. And so these enrollment projections of 550 students are all based on pulling from Vance County LEA. And so you can, on our next slide, take a look at the LEA demographic comparisons here, with the applicant being in blue. Again, the zip code is unknown. We have 2 charter schools in Vance County currently, and then 16 traditional schools. And so we have Ms. Chandra Sledge Mathias, am I saying that? Mathias, here as our primary point of contact. I will turn the floor over to you and allow you to make the 10-minute opening statement for Sledge Institute. Good afternoon.
I'm going to ask, or good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to ask two of our board members to join me in the opening statement. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. How was lunch? Good.
Fried chicken.
All right, okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chalise Henderson, and I serve as the board secretary for the Sledge Institute, and we are very excited to be here with you this afternoon to share more information about our school community with you. We're joined by our team leader, Dr. Chandra Sledge Mathias, the CEO and the founder of the Sledge Institute, Dr. Lea Macon, who serves as our board president. Our team here, we have Dr. Veronica Scales. She serves as our board vice president, Michael Williams, and Michael Markovsky. You can call them M&M if you want to. And then we're also joined virtually with Ashley Dundas. We have additional board members, Ms. Tasha Ash, Hassan Kingsbury, and Kristen Shirt, who could not join us today. So at the Sledge Institute, we believe that through experience, community, heart, and opportunity, which are our core values, that our students, families, and communities will be adequately engaged and empowered to participate and lead in an ever-changing world. Thus, our mission is to embrace, embolden, and engage that natural curiosity and the unique gifts of learners through our 6 key elements, which include project-based, competency-based, and place-based education. The Sledge Institute is a proposed charter school that will be located in Henderson, North Carolina, which is located in Vance County. And our team members, we all work, live, and serve in the Carter region, which includes Warren, Vance, Granville, Franklin, and Person counties. So when designing the Sledge Institute, we not only considered the voices of the community, but we considered the needs of the community and the desired outcomes for students in that community. And so now Dr. Lea Macon will share more information about our community needs and the dynamics.
The Carter region is consistently ranked amongst the most distressed areas in the state. Vance County was recently declared an area of 30 years of perpetual poverty, leading to generational challenges that have been difficult to overcome. Small businesses and industry leaders have expressed concerns about the decline in workforce skills and preparedness of the incoming workforce, which has hindered the growth and development of the community. However, the timing of this opportunity to bring a new school to the area is ideal. The region is growing, new housing and industry developments underway, attracting people from larger counties like Durham and Wake counties, while providing hope to our current population. Incoming and existing families in the Carter region are looking for a school of high caliber that offers individualized and equitable approaches to education and a connection to the community. The needs are clear. There are academic, social, and safety concerns about our existing public schools. Unfortunately, our current options in public school system and the 2 charter schools offerings are not fully addressing the concerns and the needs of our community. The Sledge Institute would provide a model that directly addresses workforce readiness, access to high-quality instruction, authentic community engagement in schools, social-emotional needs, and overall wellness of the full school community. So now Dr. Chandra will speak to how the Sledge Institute is a solution to these community needs.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. So in all of our exploration, as we were designing our school model, we spoke with community members, families. We are deeply rooted in the community, so we have lots of anecdotal data from our community members. But we've also talked to higher education officials as well as industry leaders. And based off of the feedback, particularly from industry leaders and their concern around the incoming workforce and how those soft skills are simply lacking, we landed on our six key elements. So again, they are project-based learning, place-based education, global education, competency-based education, post-secondary readiness, and all-inclusive wellness. These 6 key elements, we believe, based off of all of the information we've gathered, the research that's out there, and then our own professional experiences. Many of us have worked in project-based and competency-based settings, that these 6 key elements will provide the type of rich academic environment that our community is lacking. Though there are programs in Vance County, there's a STEM program, for example, or individual teachers across schools that are trying some of these strategies. What will set our school model apart is that we are designing our entire model around these 6 strategies. So at any point, if you were to walk through our doors, you would see multiple of these 6 strategies at work. This provides a rich environment for students in that it also allows students to engage with community members in a deeper way. When we talk about parental and family involvement, we're not just stopping at attending a ceremony or an assembly, but we are opening our doors to community members to work alongside students through projects that they'll be working on. So a student will have the opportunity to work alongside an industry professional. For example, if a student is interested in medicine, they may have the opportunity to work on a project and have mentorship and guidance from a medical professional. Another unique aspect of the Sledge Institute, which is an opportunity not only for us as a local school, but for the state of North Carolina, is the fact that we'll be competency-based. Competency-based education is not new. There are many schools that are competency-based across the nation, and North Carolina has even taken steps in designing its competency-based implementation. Sledge Institute would like to become an exemplar of these 6 key elements, and we would be an easy site to use as a case study for the state in action research around competency-based education. So we are excited about this opportunity. We are passionate. We've assembled a board that is deeply committed, and we will see this vision to fruition, and we welcome your questions and your feedback. One thing that I will say about our board members is that we are the students that we are trying to serve. We are connected to the community. We came through the local schools, and so we've gone out and learned lots of things in our professions, and we want to bring those learnings back to a school in the community. And this is an opportunity for us to not only share what we've learned, but to create a different experience that will provide equity and access for all students to experience these type of learning opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you. Now's our time to pepper you with questions. I'll start before we go. And so what we tend to do here is we'll throw out some questions amongst ourselves. If you could just kind of take notes, and then you can come up to the podium and start addressing them, and that will lead to more questions as well. But before we do that, can someone go to the podium and just clarify how many board members do you have? Because in the application there's 7, but I think I counted more than that when you were rolling.
Yes, so we have, at the time that we submitted the application, we had 7, and we've, continued working on our model since April. So we've since added additional board members. We can go up to 11. Since, I think all of these we have 9 total. All of the folks that are here were on the board when we submitted in April, and then we've added, since then, Tasha Ash, who's unable to be here, and Kristen Shutt, who's unable to be here today.
And you're not on the board, you're the.
I'm not on the board, no.
You're the proposed head of school?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Questions? C-Sub,
Well, I feel like I'm gonna steal this one from you, but I don't know if there's a way to bring up the budget. Because it says $1 for the lease and $15,000 for office supplies, and that's all I see.
No legal, no tech,
No
no PD.
software, no computers, no marketing, no buses, gas, water, sewer, electric. So it could be an error that the budget hasn't been submitted, or you guys are running the best. I mean, that's the best budget I've ever seen. I wish I had it.
We wish, no. At the time that we submitted our application, we didn't have all of the information that would go into a budget. So we were wondering, should we wait and submit later, and advise to go ahead and submit something? But that is definitely not our complete budget. We've continued to work on it since then, and we now have a budget that we would be willing to submit if requested.
This is,
How do we consider
I've
that?
never seen this.
So, and this was considered a complete application?
That's my question, yeah.
Why was it complete?
At the time, we did not evaluate for the merits of the budget or the quality of the submission.
So there is a budget, it just isn't
It's just not the right
realistic.
one.
Well, so what I want to clarify what I think I heard. The budget that was submitted as part of this application
Was incomplete,
was not complete.
right? And we've since completed the budget, so we can submit that if requested.
Yeah, we haven't historically allowed, you submit the application, it's, what you submit is what you submit. And we haven't historically allowed candidates to come back and say, oh, wait, I meant to submit this, or I meant to submit this.
I mean, I see the staffing. I guess that's the staffing.
Well, there's no legal, no tech, no PD, but on the overall, the surplus is 13,000.
Yeah, if you go to the operational tab, on the screen.
Nothing.
It says it's empty. Which makes it really difficult for us. See, one of the things why these budgets are important is most of us operate schools. And so we were able to give candidates some pretty good insights as to, yeah, you're gonna spend way much more on paper than you put in the budget, or you're gonna spend, buses are gonna cost this. And without that information, it's really hard to gauge whether you have a budget that's gonna support everything you put in the academic plan to produce.
Let me ask this question. So is this budget, submitting a budget now that's been updated, would that be altering your application, or is that?
Yes, it would be an alteration, but again, it's, when we look at an application, for example, we see right here, like a personnel budget. So we aren't reviewing, like, when they submit an application and we have 5 days to review for completeness. We just are looking for some, like, whether they have submitted a budget.
So if it's complete from OCS, then our job is to
To
work off
evaluate
of
on
this
what
budget
you
of what
have
was
in front of you.
submitted, correct?
Yes. If you of course, you could request something, and that would be a revision to the application, but
Well, let's skip
We
the
don't do
budget
that.
question for now and maybe get into some of the educational stuff, cause if there's questions about the educational program or whatever,
It is important, but they're not gonna be able to do anything about it today.
not right now, no.
Right.
but the application's not.
But don't we need to decide if we're gonna go through the process or not? Or if that's a.
Deal breaker?
Well,
Right.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
even if we don't go through the process, I would like to argue that they may return. And it is better that they return, even if it's next year, it's better that they return having gotten some feedback on the other elements that they've submitted than to come back without feedback. Like, one piece of feedback is you need to have a budget that's a real budget.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask.
okay, yeah, let's,
Back to your question.
I can make a phone call. Can you leave this?
Yeah. If, for the pleasure of the board, instead of this one mistake shutting down everything else, I think we at least need to, if there's questions that you all had about the educational program, other things that were outside the budget, let's at least hear that out, because I think Bruce is probably gonna go check and see what this means. And, I think if everything else is satisfactory, maybe there's a request for a budget, if we're allowed to do that. I don't know that that's something that's allowable. Do you understand what's happening, right?
Yes, and I may have misunderstood, but I thought that we would be allowed to submit, or if you request, we would be allowed to submit. So we have the budget prepared if you request
Well, yeah,
it.
let's go ahead and, let's skip by this part for right now. And do you have any other questions with regard to anything else outside of the budget with this application?
Sure.
Right, go ahead.
Tell us about your scheduling, wanting to open with 125 students. First of all, where do you feel like you are within the community with hitting that number? Not the parents will come, but tangibly. What do you do? What do you have that can show that you are well on your way to hitting that number? And two, neither here nor there, just as a curiosity of mine, opening K2 and then 6th grade. Talk to us about that decision.
So we feel confident that we will hit the 125. We've been doing outreach, and we've had, parents reach out to us, particularly with the kindergarten students, and then also with the 6th grade students. So we do feel confident that we'll hit that 125.
Approximately what kind of numbers are you talking? When you say parents, do you have any kind of hard numbers of?
I would say hard numbers around 50.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have also data from one of the early childhood centers that's in close proximity with us, that's been doing a lot of marketing on our behalf, and so those families as well have indicated interest in enrolling their children in our kindergarten. Why 6th grade? We grappled with that, but the need is so high for middle schools in that area, not only in Vance County, but in neighboring counties, Warren County, for example. And just quite frankly, there needs to be another middle school option. And so that's why we added the 6th grade and decided to grow up until we're K through 12.
And when you say there needs to be another middle school option, are the schools overcrowded, or are you saying?
They are, academic performance is low.
Performance is low?
Yes, so I would say academic performance as well as culture and safety. We've heard from parents, teachers at these schools, and students as well that they don't always feel safe when they go to school. So safety is a priority as well as just the academic performance.
Have you pinpointed a location, let's say that won't be close to Unison Collegiate or Vance Charter?
Yes, so we are looking at a location downtown Henderson. Chalisa, if you want to talk through that. This was actually a building owner that has reached out to us, and we've actually had several folks reach out to us with potential spaces, but we were considering location, close proximity to Henderson Collegiate or Vance Charter. So this would put us downtown Henderson on Garrett Street, which is like the main street in Henderson, close to the Chamber of Commerce and some of those industry leaders that we've connected with.
So is that property for sale or for lease?
It's for lease.
Yep, we have a great, relationship with the land, owner as well. And so very strategic in making sure that the school location is accessible to all of the surrounding counties as well. So, we're targeting northern Henderson so that we can be easy accessible from Franklin County and Warren County. The location that we're looking at is actually right off of 85, which is the main highway, because we do anticipate getting students from Granville County as well. So right now, we're looking at starting in the downtown Henderson location, and then by year 4, when our high school is open, we should have acquired land at that point to build a permanent facility. So we do have a great relationship with the owner of that property, and he's waiting for us to move forward when we're ready.
What schools are closest in proximity to you guys?
To
Where you're
the-
thinking about
To this
being?
proposed location,
Henderson Middle?
Carvance Academy away from you?
no, not really. So there really isn't a school right in that area where we're looking at. The closest would be an elementary school, probably about 2 to 3 miles in a different neighborhood. But the good thing about this proposed location is that it is a residential community around the downtown area. And so we'll be able to target quite a few students who are in walking distance. Some of those students who may have more challenges could easily access the school as well.
Is it school ready?
It honestly
Yeah.
is.
Is it a
Yeah,
school-
it was
is it
a
a s-
former educational building, so it's like a workforce development site. So it's already got classrooms, it's a lot of, office space. We can knock down walls if we need to, but it is pretty much ready to go.
Now Henderson Middle is downtown.
Henderson, yeah, that's more.
Used to
Or
be
the
Henderson-
northern part of
Used to
the
be
county.
Henderson Junior.
Yes, and so
But,
now it's Vance County Middle School, which is, on the northern side of the county. It's actually right across from our education center that we operate.
What about Eden Johnson? Is it still?
It's closed.
It's closed?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Before I
Yes,
ask
ma'am,
my
sorry.
question? Can you speak just a little bit about transportation? Because I pulled up a map, because I'm unfamiliar with Vance
Mhm.
County, so I'm pulling it up out of pure ignorance, looking at the neighboring counties and thinking about, you won't have children able to drive to your school by themselves until year 6. So between year 1 and year 5, without transportation, how are you going to recruit? Or just talk to me about what your conversations have been around transportation to recruit from those neighboring counties, given the distance that I'm looking at just on a map.
Mhm. We have had several parents, and when I say several, it's almost as many Warren County families as Vance County families reach out to us. And one thing that we know, because Henderson Collegiate and Vance Charter are already options, is that Warren County families will travel. They have talked about families getting together to arrange transportation. So I don't anticipate that being a huge issue for us. Yeah.
Back in the day, I was looking at actually opening a charter school in Vance County. We were actually looking at the Carvance Academy.
Okay.
And there was I will say from just my time and going down there that there was a high interest in a charter school.
Yeah, Vance County, I would say, is very progressive in that way. It's very pro-charter. And the charters there that are existing, those are great schools. Our model is just so different from what they already offer. So we're seeking to offer a different option for families.
I'm sorry, Todd.
No, that's fine. I have, the thing in the transportation plan that concerns me the most is that you plan to buy vans. And that, you need another alternative.
Yes, so we looked at the feedback that we received and learned through that feedback. This has been a great learning process for us, but we've learned through that process that we can't do the 15-passenger van. So that's, yeah, so that's how we arrived at the first 2 years. We won't be able to provide transportation, but our goal is to eventually be able to provide transportation.
Is there a
And
trend?
if you allow us to submit the budget, which I hope you do, you'll see that year one is a tight budget because we're only opening with 125. And so we definitely wouldn't be able to purchase vehicles year one, but we do want to be able to provide transportation by year three, definitely by year four when we have high school students.
Yep.
It's tough, the demographic that you seek to serve without transportation can be a barrier.
Mhm. It's tough, it's a resilient community, and it's I'll call us scrappy, for lack of a better word. So we will, for our students, we don't want to have any barriers to entry. So, we will keep problem solving around that so that if a student wants to attend and transportation is a challenge, we can support that family.
You need a system
Mhm.
for that is written out, articulated, publicized, like all of the things.
Yes.
So you make the comment that you are deeply rooted in this community, but looking at your board list, it doesn't appear that anybody lives in Vance or Warren County.
Yeah. Oh. Mhm.
So I live in Granville County technically, but I am from Vance County and I work in Vance County. So I work for North Carolina Cooperative Extension and we do a variety of things with schools and other community partners. And I am deeply involved in various boards within the county as well. And so I'm pretty much there 5 to 6 days out of the week along with Chalice.
Yeah, if you think about the Carter region, you're looking at the Carter region. So I am from Warren County. I work and serve in Vance County through our nonprofit organization, Turning Point Community Development, which serves Warren, Vance, Granville, and Franklin County, and I reside in Granville County. So we've got pretty much all of the counties covered, except probably Person County, deeply rooted, but very, very connected to the community, very in touch with the needs and with the students in the community and the families. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have a education center through our nonprofit organization, which provides after school, it provides a very robust summer learning program and a early childhood center, which is licensed out of state. And so we have clear evidence of not only the needs of it for a new charter school, but parents who are saying, when your school is open, we're coming to it almost daily. So the need is there, the community is there, and I mean, several other people are connected to the
I have a
area.
question about.
Chime in. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Williams. My educational journey began in a place called Red Hill in Warren County for the Head Start program. The majority of my professional career was spent working in the Warren County schools. I was fortunate to actually work with two of the members of our panel at a school that focused on the new tech learning model, new tech project-based learning model, I should say. And so still have relatives there, still regularly attend church there. I live in Franklin County. I'm only about 25 minutes from where we're actually looking at. But I still consider myself very much invested in that community and frequently volunteer throughout that community as well.
So when I say deeply rooted, I mean, we are the children that we're trying to serve. We're the ones that grew up and we've learned many things, but that's home and we will fight for it and we love it and we want to provide a loving school community. So the passion is there and it's authentic, it's genuine. Yeah.
So how are you tying in the nonprofit? Your sledge.
Yes, so Turning Point Community Development Corporation, Chalice Henderson is actually the executive director. I'll let her speak to that. But there is already a deep connection between Turning Point. They've been supportive with us in some of the items that marketing, for example, were not reflected on the budget that you don't have. Turning Point has been supportive in providing services for us, helping us with our outreach, helping us with systems development, and I'll actually speak more to that.
And if it's a conflict of interest.
Turning Point is is really like a pilot program for the Sledge Institute of what a full school could look like. So the children in our after-school program and in our summer learning program come from the schools in our counties. They come from the public schools, they come from the charter schools, both charter schools, and they come from a private school in the area. And so we're able to look at them. We do diagnostics with them. We use a program called Admentum to see where they are. And then we create programs. Everything that we're talking about with the Sledge Institute in a school, we're able to pilot it through our after school and through our summer learning programs. And it is incredibly successful because it is very different from what they experience on a daily basis in their school settings. We see the worksheets that we get that they come home with. We see the feedback. We see them ready and excited to engage in a different way of learning. And so that's kind of what a lot of the feedback that we're using from the parents, knowing that they are looking for something different. They're ready for their children to be engaged in something different. And the beauty of our nonprofit in partnership with the Sledge Institute is that we're able to work with students of all learning abilities, all learning backgrounds, and families of all different, of all statuses as well.
You've been trying to get a question in.
Right. Will that still be a conflict of interest?
What's that? What would be specific?
Okay, they have a nonprofit. They have a school that they're working with or partnering with. Could any of those funds end up being part of their nonprofit? Is what I'm looking at.
Is the
Yeah,
school
and
gonna
the-
pay you?
No. I serve on the board, but there's no
anyway.
financial relationship between the school and the nonprofit, as
Even
far as
eventually.
sharing resources as far as like a graphic designer or something
Not
like that.
eventually.
But no, there's no financial benefit from the school to Turning Point, and vice versa.
Or the perception of.
Yeah, I think it would be, I mean, to your point, I think it's one to at least make sure that you're clearly articulating that the separation between the two.
Yeah, I think to your point of the perception would certainly be a positive perception because again, we have that historical data. We have a great reputation, for lack of better words. And
Yeah,
so
but a
if-
conflict of interest.
Yeah.
It's just the, it's the monetary stuff. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What other kinds of questions? Bart, you got one?
Are you gonna have I'm sorry, go ahead.
Bart looks like he's contemplating one over there.
Well, I did have one, but,
Did I ask?
oh, so you mentioned partnerships with industry. Has industry been supportive in any other way beyond just encouraged, verbal encouragement? Has there been any funding? What sort of support, if any, already exists from those folks?
So we've had programmatic support, for example, with our Global Education Initiative. We've talked to a representative at one of the partner organizations that we will be partnering with, UNC Worldview, that's based out of UNC Chapel Hill. So they have given us guidance around what global education, how we could build out our global education model. Dr. Waukee, do you want to talk about Cooperative Extension? Yeah.
So again, I'm the director of Cooperative Extension, and we work in schools and community centers in different places throughout the community. And so we have offered our technical assistance with agriculture, food and nutrition, which incorporates the all-inclusive wellness component of Sledge Institute, in addition to any kind of support that they will need throughout the way.
Yeah, and then additionally, we also have a letter of support from what is this title? Not Provost, Vice President at Vance Granville Community College, in support of our post-secondary readiness initiatives. So.
We're about out of time, so any other comments, questions?
I'll just say that I feel like this board is connected with the community. They know the community, which is a great thing. I'm guessing that we just want to see what the numbers look like, because that's what drives a lot of the questions here. That'd be a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
One of the questions that's come up in the past, and Todd, this is usually your question. Are any of the members of the board going to be working for the school?
No. And I'm not on the board.
And I'll also respond to that question as well, you know, we're all have our own professional experiences, our own lived experiences that we bring to the board, but the core, what binds us together is that heart for this work, but also having the opportunity to actually matriculate through the public school systems in that area, particularly the Warren County, but then also the Vance County as well. And so the goal of education is to produce a body of students, to produce a population of alums who can come back and actually invest in that community and make that community better. And that's one thing that I'm proud about, to be able to work with, everyone who is standing before you today. From historical context, some of you all may recall there was once a place in Warren County called Shiloh Institute. There was later a place called the Henderson Institute. Shiloh Institute was created in the late 19th century, and that Shiloh Institute birthed James Shepherd. James Shepherd would go on to found North Carolina Central University. Henderson Institute around the same time, post-Reconstruction. But all these were opportunities to connect to a disadvantaged, underrepresented, underfunded population. And so in the spirit of a lot of the work that we do, we talk about, how these things are recurring and how we feel this need to actually come back and serve that community. We all know that Vance County was one of the 5 counties identified in the Leandro case, which was maybe almost 30 years ago at this point. So we recognize the need. And no, we don't plan to work for the organization, but I do know that the board in and of itself can influence positively overall the culture of an organization. I serve on the National Council for History Education. I previously served on the Organization of American Historians. And I know no matter how far and wide you are, if you are in tune, if you are supportive, if you are encouraging, if you're constantly reminding the people in the building about the mission, the objectives, and the vision of your organization, then you will be successful in bringing people on board who will support that and will bring it forward. So I thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your questions. I'd be willing to answer any additional questions we have. I know the time is up at this point, and so I will yield. But again, thank you all for your time.
You actually get, that was our questions, right? So you get actually 10 minutes.
So I can continue talking?
You actually get 10 minutes for
okay,
closing
well then let
remarks.
me go back into some more history then. So I will also say that those of you who are connected to the area know that when we talk about Vance County, and Vance County being one of the highest unemployment rates, having worked in that area, worked as an educator, I know that there were several blows that happened in that area over the course of the past 30 years. As a child growing up in there, I have friends whose parents worked for Harrod and Henderson Yards. That place closed in 2003. It was a major blow to the people who actually lived in that community. They lost 125. If you follow the trends, whether it's crime statistics, where you follow property-related crimes, where you follow suspensions, things like that, you notice that that community took a very, very hard hit. We're almost 30 years away from that actual closing. Not 30 years, I'm doing that, 20 years away from that. But I know that that community is still feeling the effects of it. And how do we change that? We can't fix it. We can't remedy all the problems there, but we can go to the center of that community. If you're familiar with Garnett Street, which runs right in the middle of the community, we used to call it Main Street. I used to buy my school clothes from right there when I was a kid. But there are communities that live within block to 2 blocks of people who live well below the poverty line, who we would love to be able to contact. We would love to be able to draw upon our experiences, both nationally as well as international experiences as well, to be able to benefit these students. Question of budget came up, and we'd be more than happy in the board's discretion to submit that. But aside from that, we are very, very much in support of this, and we will do everything that we can do to answer the questions of the board, but also to ensure that these students receive an adequate and supportive, encouraging, and inspiring education. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have a few more minutes? I'm Ashley Dundas, and I would love to just speak a little bit to what Mike Williams shared.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ashley Dundas. I am an administrator at Thales Academy, which you may know, that's all over Raleigh, North Carolina. And just to piggyback off of what Mike Williams shared about just the effects of systematic school difficulties in response to workforce inadequacies as well. I'm a huge proponent of school choice, and I think that students in Vance County could definitely benefit from that, whether it be the charter or the private
school as well. So I think that having an additional model, one that encompasses all of those 6 goals, will definitely give us just a different flavor to appeal to the individual differences of students there. Again, I grew up in Warren County. My church is in Warren County. I have land in Warren County. So my heart is truly there, even though work may have put me in a different place. But definitely, we're all, if you look at us all, we're just passionate about Warren County, and we're concerned about giving these students a different educational option.
Yeah, and I will just add one more thing. I can't hear you. So, in addition to what everyone else has shared, when we submitted our application in April, that was not the end point for us. We have been continuing to build on this model. We did a self-assessment of where we were and what our capacity was, and that aligned to much of the feedback that we received. So we have continued to address those areas that were highlighted in the feedback that we've received. And again, we are welcome to submit any additional items that you request.
Yeah, so I wanted to follow up with what Ashley just said, speaking of the uniqueness of our educational model and what makes it very different from the surrounding counties and the surrounding offerings in the area. So currently, and really my entire career in education I've done so far for 8 years has been as a project-based learning teacher. Everywhere I've been project-based learning, career technical education, digital media teacher instruction. Currently I'm in a Student Leadership Academy, which is in Sanford, Lee County, Harnett County, and we have tremendous results exceeding the county in test scores, but we have a project-based learning model tied in our charter. I'm the head of that department, but before that, I worked with Warren New Tech, which is in Warren County, a couple of our board members, where we basically use project-based learning in this community already, and we saw exponential growth in our school score while we were there. So we have that example already, but what we've done is, in this education model, you will see is there is a focus on middle grades exploration CTE courses, which is in the NCDPI standards and listed. I believe middle grades is the best time to expose children to different interests in career technical education. So like to high school, they can pick focuses. So what we're offering, the ideal image of a graduate of this institute, is to see someone who is not just college ready, but also career ready. Having them participate in a CTE elective pathway as part of their elective requirements, instead of just looking as something they choose to do. We want them to have to do it and learn and develop. And that interest we tied into their initial exploration in middle school, and then we develop it through their grades. Similarly, a similar model is currently used at a Student Leadership Academy, where I'm currently instructing, where students are taking digital media classes as part of our charter, and we have extremely high Adobe test scores from that. Several of our students are certified professionally in Adobe Academy starting in 9th grade. So that's the technology piece of it. By comparison, what we're looking to do here is something similar, but with industry, manufacturing, agriculture, possibly technology as well, just to provide the opportunity in the experience. So I'm also the only person who's not like a native of the area. I had the benefit of working there and moving there, and learning about the whole county from my wonderful colleagues, but also experienced it firsthand for the students we had. So this school is really about the potential we see in the area and the growth we see that it can be achieved.
Thank you. Thanks for taking it.
Yes, sir.
Again, this is our time to deliberate, ask any follow-up questions that we may have. We may ask you to come back to the mic, just.
What did we learn about the budget? Did we learn anything about it?
You know, I think we have to vote on the merits of the application as it's in front of us. Yeah, I think, last month, we had a school, maybe not been last month, maybe
2 months ago.
2 months ago, we had a school, you may recall it was before us, and
Highland.
they had no money put into their facilities. And when we questioned that, you know, they didn't know what the facility cost was going to be, so they didn't put it into the budget. It's hard to ascertain whether the budget can support the plan without the budget being seen. And, you know, if we're gonna be consistent, we told them that they needed to come back.
We have the option with this to have them come back.
Well, we have the option to do what we vote to do, but it's a matter of to me, being consistent.
Understand?
You know, if it were not approved today, and you think about our three choices, if it's not approved today or a second interview, but again, second interviews are really not about giving them an opportunity to alter the application that we have in front of us. You know, if it were not approved today, they can appeal to the State Board of Ed. But I don't think that appeal is gonna allow them to then, okay, swap this budget in for the one that was given to CSRB. The other option would be they could reapply as an accelerated applicant next year, and if approved, they would still be on track to open in 2025. The only thing, as we know, with that accelerated path, they would have to have that facility locked down. Like, it's gotta be, they don't have to have the CO in hand when they come back, but they gotta be doggone close to that point.
Are they able to adjust their application at that point? With
Yeah,
that
because
that'd
it'd
be
be a new application, even if all they do is change the budget, if everything else stayed the
Would
same.
just be a new fresh
Yeah,
click?
that application will open up in, what, January?
January.
And they could apply as an applicant for the accelerated path. It still allows them to open in 2025 if they were approved.
The way I understand it, it's,
At the risk of being that guy,
Please be, yeah.
Risk of what?
of being that guy,
Be that guy.
the folks that we just gave a second interview to did not have evidence in their application of demand, which is one of the things that's required. And we told them they would have 2 months to provide. How is that remarkably different from?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they didn't have evidence. I'd say we wanted to see more evidence, but I'm splitting hairs, recognizing as I say that. You make a motion.
well, I'm thinking more back to the, as I'm sitting here thinking of the Highland, it was Highland Charter Academy was the one in Moore County that didn't have money in for their facilities. There was something else too. I can't remember if it was, I can't remember if there was the educational plan was solid. They didn't put in something for facilities, and there was another reason why we didn't have them.
I guess a question I have, and maybe the applicant can answer this question, is, and I'm just gonna state the obvious, it's a pretty glaring weakness to have an entire part of your budget just to be empty. I don't know in my time at CSRB I've ever seen this. Did you look at other schools, like, I don't wanna tell you what you could have done, but did you look at others? I know you left it empty because you didn't know what figures to put in there.
We looked at other schools, but we had not had a chance to deliberate and make decisions. So instead of me just putting a budget together without the board input, I submitted an incomplete budget. It is now complete, and just to answer your question, there is money set aside for a building.
Now, you're not on the board, but you
I'm
were
not on
willing
the
to
board, yes.
create a budget for the board.
Well,
I did not want to create a budget for the board without the board sitting together and working through that and making decisions around it, which is why it didn't go, a complete budget wasn't submitted in the original application.
At some
So who
stage in the
created
process.
budget now, that you have now?
The board came together,
Board.
and yes, it's been a collaborative effort.
I mean, at some stage in the process, regardless of who wrote all of this, the board would have had to sit down, read it, and approve it.
And again, to that point, just the misunderstanding that if, my assumption, which I shouldn't have assumed, was that we would perhaps have the opportunity today, if you all decided to submit that, if you requested it.
Other comments, questions?
Like you say, based on the merit of the application.
One thing I would note is if the application ends up being rejected at this point, there are avenues to be back on track next year. Now, they're slightly different. If that happens and you find yourself on that path, one of the sticking points I would point out that we've seen with other applicants, that you don't want to get stuck twice, point, has been providing good quantitative evidence that you can fill the seats, which is not just, we've talked to people and we have anecdotal evidence, it's, you put those anecdotes down on a sheet of paper somewhere so that you got the name of the person you had the anecdote from and the number of kids they have and that sort of thing. So
And we do have survey data from our interest survey that went out in the community. And one of the questions was, would you enroll your child in this school? And then it also allowed opportunities for families to say what they would want to see in the school, which we took into consideration in our design.
How many people, I saw that survey, the results were all presented in percentages. How many people actually took the survey? How many families?
At the time we submitted, we had 50 surveys completed.
and how many do you have now? Still 50?
No, I don't have that exact number now. It's still on our website, so folks can still have the opportunity to complete it.
Is it a lot more than 50 or is it a little more than 50?
Yes, yes, it's more than 50. We can submit that as well
It's
if
just
you.
That's a pickle, man.
I promise anything, we have, if you want it now, I can get on Wi-Fi, I can send it to you.
It's unfortunate, because they know, I mean, it's a good, they will make a great school. I really do. I know great is a broad term, but.
There's a lot of strength there.
Yes,
There's
it's
a lot of strength.
There's a lot of strength.
They've done their homework, except for the
It's a
budget.
board that obviously has.
I don't know if I
passion
can
for
ask,
it.
can I ask a question? If we talk through the numbers, would that ease your concern? I know you have to be consistent though, so.
Yeah, the question, if I might ask, the question is, we do have a very thorough budget prepared. And I know that you all don't have this in front of you, but while we're here today, can we just talk through what we have? And so we don't have to delay a year. I know it might be unconventional, but if we could think about,
Yeah,
opportunities.
I'm gonna have to,
So can I ask,
regrettably, I think that, again, we're trying to,
the parts of the budget that are complete, what is your,
okay, so let's walk through that, all right. It would be, things related to having an office, paper, computers, communications, telephones, all that.
it's the operation.
It would be, management company doesn't exist, so that's a zero.
Right.
Any professional contracts, so what are they gonna be paying for an attorney? Are they doing any kind of outside financial, consultation, student accounting? The big one is facilities. And then you have tied to facilities, your water bill, your gas bill, your trash bill, your sewer bill, and then things such as transportation, marketing, lunch program. It's a big part of the budget. I mean, it's not the biggest part of the budget. The biggest part of any school's budget is people, personnel, and that's covered.
Yeah, it's that tab, the other tabs are reasonable.
Well, but the other tabs are, the personnel budget wouldn't need to be, but when you get into overall budget, these are figures that are actually not real.
Right.
Like a $13,732 balance after year run, well, that's not real, that's not a real number.
And how's that gonna change? I mean,
That's good.
you can't do all the other things that you need to do with 13,000.
Alex?
Yeah, can I ask a quick question
Please.
of you? So it sounds like if the concern is consistency and the other examples you're giving are of schools that left things missing in the budget. But in those cases, it sounds like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that they left things out because they didn't have them. Whereas they seem to have left things out because they were under the misunderstood notion that they could provide the budget later. They've shown up with the budget, so it seems like more of a misunderstanding and less of a not having the information. So for consistency's sake, whatever decision you make would be based on the fact that this is a misunderstanding rather than the fact that they didn't have the information. If
But
that makes
that's
sense.
really not a good reason.
Well, I look at it this way, I
They're
mean,
supposed to
this
look at
is just,
everything that they're supposed to.
this is my personal belief, is that, you know, if I'm filling out an application, I'm gonna, every page, right? And if I have any questions, I'm gonna call the Office of Charter School and say, hey, look, I don't have these numbers yet, what should I do? Right, cause I gotta submit this thing tomorrow and I don't have numbers right now, so what should I do? And, you know, so, I mean, in actuality, while the box is checked that the application was complete, it's not.
And can I speak to that? I did ask that question in one of the support sessions. If our budget is incomplete and we haven't finished making those decisions, should I leave that out? And I was advised, submit something, because it's worse to submit nothing than to submit something, which is what I did.
So
Okay,
the
I'm
something was an incomplete budget as opposed to the something being an incomplete budget line, which might be what was meant here, is that you need to have the lines of the budget filled out.
Well, that's a conversation we don't know.
No, we don't know.
No, we don't know the details of the conversation.
I'll be the one that goes there. I'll make a motion that we invite Sledge Institute to come back for an additional interview.
Is there a second?
And I'm presuming that that includes with new budget,
Yes.
with a completed budget.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion to, grant Sledge a second interview on the condition that prior to the second interview, they will not only respond to questions that we submit to them, which is standard protocol, but they would also provide a complete budget. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I feel like this board has been put together pretty thoroughly in so many other places. The complete absence of one item suggests something unusual happened in the conversation about that item. And so the communication about that item. So I would be inclined to support that, the proposal,
Yeah.
and bring it back.
I'm struggling. I don't disagree with you, Dr. Danielson, but it was a big item.
Yes, I don't disagree with you either.
I don't disagree with that as well. I can agree with that.
Any other discussion? Okay, Ashley, can we do roll call vote?
Yep. Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Stephen Gay,
Aye.
Huddle Parlay,
Approves.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Shelley Shope,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
John Eldridge.
Well, it doesn't, aye.
All right, you have been granted a second interview. This will take place in December. Please wait for an email from our office with specific instructions of what to submit and when to submit it before sending us anything, okay?
This is when we need legal. It's exact, this is it right here.
Thank you all.
All right, come back ready.
Come back real ready.
Yes.
Very ready.
This
All
time
the
I
hard
really can't take
numbers.
today.
All the
Put
hard
us in a
ones
really
and
bad
answers.
spot.
Yes.
So can, I mean, I told them yesterday.
That'd be a conflict, they call it conflict now.
Yes, definitely. That wasn't addressed in the legislation.
No, and they didn't even put funding in there for one. That's gonna be real important.
I think that was it's a slippery slope.
I think the way that we correct this is to make sure that the very front cover of this thing is that while things might be checked by them, if every box isn't checked, your application will be denied by CSRB. I think we just can't correct it in this season. I think in the next application season, we need to address that.
Did we call for a 5-minute break? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did not, but do you want a 5-minute break?
All right, let's do 5-minute break, sorry.
Okay, we're taking a 5-minute break.
I would have much rather denied them and asked them to do a fast track, because they would open at the same time. If we deny them and they do fast track, they're gonna
Okay, welcome back. We're live, okay. Last item on today's agenda is reconsideration of Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy. Just as a reminder, said the same thing yesterday. This is a reconsideration of the vote that the State Board of Education made. It's not intended to be a re-interview of the applicant. Also state, as we did yesterday, that because this was not intended to be a re-interview, we did not require the applicant to bring full board members with them. So keep that in the back of your mind. Just a quick recap on this particular applicant. They were before us in December of 2022. CSAB voted to approve Heritage Collegiate and moved it onto the state board. In February of 2023, the state board voted not to approve Heritage. It was then circled back to us again in February, which again the CSAB approved, or I shouldn't say approved, recommended. We were advisory. And then in March of 2023, this year, the state board again denied the application. So again, today's is a reconsideration. New legislation that was passed during the summer allowed applicants who had received approval from CSAB but then denial from state board to apply for a reconsideration. Heritage is one of the two schools that has done that, and so again, we're here to make a decision on whether we want to reconsider the vote that the State Board of Education made. I think, Ms. Picard, did we tell the applicants we were given like 10 minutes? Or I'm not remembering if I remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tim, if you want to do like an updated
Yes,
presentation.
sure. I won't even need that much time. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity for me and Mrs. Bazemore. We have Dr. Poole on the way. But thank you for this opportunity to reconsider our application. We have always been very proud of the fact that the Charter School Advisory Board on December 5th of 2022 unanimously recommended us for approval. The only updated information that I provided in advance of this meeting was the updated DNF chart from Wake County Public Schools to establish a real need for this charter school in the Northeast Raleigh community. As you know, Torchlight was closed last year, and we are still hearing from members of families who attended Torchlight who are just waiting for another opportunity for choice in Wake County for their children. The other thing that I want to share is when you look at the state board minutes, I think for this review board, I would want you to really understand that what we believe went wrong with the state board is that the state board chose not to openly discuss our application in February of 2023. They opted just not to discuss it. So we really didn't have the opportunity to discover what, if any, concerns they may have had. We certainly wanted to make sure that they knew that HCLA Bertie County did not have its charter revoked. There is a whole other part of the process that occurred with that school leading up to the assumption that has not been acknowledged, quite frankly, by the State Board of Education. And I had prepared an entire Google folder with all of the legal documents, the actual settlement agreement between HCLA, Board of Directors, and the State Board of Education, the representatives that they had there. And in that settlement agreement, it was clearly stipulated that if the state did not identify another group to take over the assumption of our charter, that we would voluntarily dismiss the charter. And that was going to be as of June 30th, 2018. The meeting that we had, the settlement agreement was on May 1st, 2018, and at that meeting, we had almost our entire board there, and there were representatives from the state there, but we never did get to come to the table and sit down and discuss any terms of a settlement because they refused to sit down with us. And so here we stand on October 18th, 2023. And what I would like this board to know is that if we did not firmly believe that we have an educational program that is desperately needed in this community, we would not have submitted not one but two applications with not one but $2,000 paid in consideration of our application. When we submitted the time before this time that we are considering now, there were some glitches with the technology where you upload your application. We waited to the last hour, and in the end, we knew that we just had to accept that loss because we cut it too close, and that was $1,000 invested, and we really didn't get the opportunity we hoped for. So what this board did was reorganize, and we immediately started working on the next application so that when we submitted last year, we were able to submit well ahead of the deadline. We knew that everything was in place, and we are so very proud of the application that we submitted for consideration. But if you look at the minutes from the March meeting with the state board, there was no discussion of the educational program. There was no discussion of the application. In fact, the only discussion that took place was a conversation about me. And at the time, I was a sitting public educator in Durham Public Schools. In fact, I still am. And so I would humbly ask, as we are working through processes and reconsidering this application, I would humbly ask that this board consider the thousands of dollars of equipment and resources that we lost as a result of the assumption process, because at the time in 2018, there was no guiding policy for the assumption. In fact, that wouldn't come out until 2019. And so when we went through a legal settlement conference with Mr. Don McQueen, when he was selected to assume our charter, he took everything. It wasn't about, let's see how many students we have and we're going to take what we need for these students. He wanted it all. And so one of the things I would ask you to consider is that the majority of those resources were purchased with a loan that the corporation took out, not with state funds, not with federal funds. These were all things that we possessed prior to receiving our first check from the state. There were mistakes made. None of us can go back and turn back the hand of time, but what we can do is look at the application before us, as well as the fact that it was submitted with $1,000 for a fair consideration. And if you look at the number of D&F schools in Wake County that I've provided to you all, this school is desperately needed right now. So when we talk about choice, who needs choice any more than a group of students that has been historically and in a patternized way failed by the district? And when you look at Wake County, it has been discovered to be the fourth least equitable district in North Carolina. I have worked in North Carolina, in Wake County Public Schools. I have been a parent in Wake County Public Schools in the exact same community that we are seeking to serve right now. This school is desperately needed, and I humbly ask you to look at the facts of our application, of the fact that we were not given adequate due process with the State Board of Education. Things were discussed in March, and we never had an opportunity to respond because those things were not discussed in February's meeting, which would have given us an opportunity to respond. So I humbly stand before you to ask you to please fairly assess this situation, to recognize that my name has been dragged in the mud, but I am a highly qualified North Carolina licensed principal and teacher. I'm also licensed in the state of New York, and I also completed the Building Excellent Schools Fellowship in Boston, Massachusetts, founded by the Walton Family Foundation. And I worked with KIPP New York City for 5 years, and I founded, as the founding director, the Brooklyn Ascend Charter School in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and that school is still open today. So when I see all of these disparaging things written about me, there was a time in 2018 and 19 that I was just so angry. But what this 5-year span of time has taught me is this is not about me. This is about the children who desperately need choices in Wake County. Do I wish that things were done differently in Berkeley County? Looking back, of course I do. But I want you to know that we had many bright spots from that school, and this is how I will close. When you look at the 6th grade data from HCLA that was in Berkeley County, 6th grade during that 2017-18 school year was the most stable cohort of the students. Those students started with us as 3rd graders, and we had the least amount of students withdrawn in that grade. And our last year, we had 70% of our students at the 6th grade level to pass the reading test, and almost 60% to pass the math EOG. And we never got credit for that growth because it was at the same time that the school was being shut down. And so I ask you to recognize that we still believe that you can grow students to proficiency. We still believe that a curriculum that pulls from the existing state curriculum but is enhanced with things that make children receive the foundations needed to look at college as a future opportunity. But now with this application, we're also looking at community college and vocation, military, and entrepreneurship. We are so proud of what we are able to do only if we are given the opportunity. Thank you so much for your consideration today, or should I say reconsideration today, and if I can answer any questions, I'm here to do just that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Questions CSRB members may have of the applicant?
So it sounds like the state board turned them down related to the Bertie campus?
Yes.
And the assumption of
That's what Ms.
that's the
White
process?
read into record. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we have the minutes of the
Right.
various state board event meetings, and yeah, it is accurate to say that there were many concerns expressed about the financial non-compliance and some of the challenges at the prior school that the leadership of this proposed school had. One of the questions I had, I think you answered it in your opening statement, was why do you feel you're back at that microphone today?
I want you to know, Mr. Friend, Chair Friend, that I would not be here if I didn't firmly believe in its application. One of the things that Mr. Machado said last year that has stuck with me is that when he looks at me, he thinks of the word tenacity. And I am only tenacious when I truly believe in what it is that I am advocating for. And so I'm back before this microphone because I know that the children that we seek to serve desperately deserve this opportunity for choice. I know that our educational program is one that will change the trajectory of student lives. I know that we would make this body proud, and I know that we would be an example for others to follow in the future.
Why do you, let me clarify my question slightly. Why do you feel that the state board denied the application?
Well, honestly, I feel that they denied the application because they didn't have all the information. By failing to discuss our charter application on record at their February meeting, when they said, oh, go back to CSAB, even when we came back before CSAB, we didn't really know what to do because there were no guiding questions or concerns. We were just remanded back to CSAB. And then when we went back, I took off work. I was at the state board meeting, and I let them know, since we had not had the opportunity to respond to any questions, that we would be in the room in case they had questions. No questions were asked. And when you look at what was said on record, it was factually inaccurate. It stopped in 2017 when it should have stopped with the Office of Administrative Hearing processes that took place in 2018 that resulted in a mediation settlement between the HCLA Board of Directors and State Board of Education representatives. Being that they were a party in this situation, it was stunning to us that she only stopped, Ms. White, only stopped with 2017 when there were so many other procedural processes that occurred in 2018. So I believe, Mr. Friend, that they denied our application because they didn't have all of the accurate information.
Other questions or comments from CSRB members?
I was not aware, I don't think, that, that the State Board of Education had engaged in a settlement with you previously. And I think had I been aware of that, I would have wanted to understand more about that. I presume that the state board, I feel like the state board knew something I didn't know at the time, so I think I lacked information as well in the last times. What is it about the settlement with the state board that you feel inappropriately biased them against you?
Well, we had already talked to an attorney who agreed to take our case, and we decided not to move forward and pay him $10,000 because we had concerns about some of the fairness and equity processes with regard to the total charter authorization process. I firmly believe, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read your name, Dr. Danielson, that they really didn't know anything that you don't know. I firmly believe that they were acting on what they had in the record. And if you only knew what I had to go through to get the documents that I now have access to, because typically they are only given to attorneys. But because I had originally filed the original petition going back to 2017, I was able to figure out how to access it. So when I look at the terms, it was a very simple settlement, and basically it was initiated by us as the petitioner with regard to the Board of Directors. And in the settlement, which most of it is handwritten, it says the HCLA Board of Directors have voted and agree to the assumption of HCLA in accordance with state policy and general statutes. The current Board of HCLA, as well as the current administration, will continue in their respective positions through June 30th, 2018. And the assuming board will assume responsibility for the entirety of HCLA as provided in its charter on July 1st, 2018. And then if I could just go to the second page, in the event that no entity assumes HCLA by June 30th, 2018, then the HCLA charter will be voluntarily surrendered. And so I'll say it again, when Don McQueen was chosen as the assuming provider, I immediately recognized that he was trying to take everything. And I was very concerned about the way he did business. And so I made it clear that we were not going to turn over our corporation to this person that I had concerns about. I recommended that the board hold back and push back because of the way that he was just trying to take everything. And now, fast forward, we all know that that wasn't an isolated situation. And I'll say it again, because there were not specific policies in place with the assumption process in 2018, this corporation lost thousands of dollars of resources. I'll also remind you that we're coming back with the same corporation because we can. When we closed down, we didn't owe any staff members or teachers any salaries. I spoke to all the vendors. I settled on our debts. We contacted the IRS and the Department of Revenue explaining that someone had stolen our financial records and personnel records. All of this have been reported to the Office of Charter Schools. And I'll say it again, Dr. Danielson, I hope you will hear as I share with you that I absolutely believe this decision was made because of unawareness of all of the facts. And as I'm standing before you all today giving you these facts, I can email these to the chair right now if you want me to. I didn't put them out there for this meeting because these were related to HCLA Bertie. And part of what we wanted to do was keep the focus on the current application before the board. I hope that answered your question.
Can I say something? I do appreciate that you want to keep, the comments focused on this application, but I think it is relevant who the head of the board of directors is going to be, given what happened with the school in Bertie. I was a reporter at the time, but I was here for the Charter School Advisory Board meetings on the school in Bertie as well as for the state board meeting.
Yes.
And there were multiple concerns, including with the finances, getting things in on time, low student performance rather. And at the time, the best of my recollection is that the issue that the Charter School Advisory Board and the state board had was they didn't feel like they were getting adequate explanations for why these things were happening or how they were going to be corrected. And so with the most recent application for the current school, I think the concern is that bringing forth a new charter and Wake County this time with the same head who is not able to adequately answer or address these questions before is going to possibly lead to a similar result. And so I guess my question for you would be, given the issues with the school in Bertie County, what's different this time?
So I want to really please reiterate that the concerns, when you speak of the financial noncompliance, the day that we came before the state board during 2018, we were taking off financial noncompliance. We had 70% of our teachers licensed in that last year. So, sir, what I would say to you is if we were going to really do this right, if this is the concern for you, we need to go down and item by item allow us to address these concerns, because the issue is we were never given the opportunity to fully convince the state board in 2017 to hear us out. When we first started in 2014, when Joe Medley was the head of the Office of Charter Schools, we had a consultant assigned to our school. They were coming out for regular visits, and they would give you a site visit report with recommendations for improvement. We followed 100% of those recommendations. So I really don't know how to respond to you except to say, what I can tell you is I don't have confidence in the media anymore after what we went through, because there were lies being spread from established media outlets that I once respected, and nobody was doing any due diligence to give us an opportunity to respond. In fact, the only one reporter who did that was Mr. Greg Childress, and I'm so thankful to him for giving us the opportunity to tell our side of the story. So if we talk today about news stories versus facts, we're going right back down the same road. And what I'm saying is, whatever your concern is, I will answer it. Financial noncompliance, it was removed before the school closed. Governance concerns, when we had people who had their jobs threatened in Berkeley County, and if you're from Berkeley County or know about this community, it gets tough politically. And so we had board members whose jobs were threatened that had to step down, and I called an emergency meeting with the parents and said, this is a save our school meeting. I know that some of you are realtors. I know that some of you are homemakers. I know that some of you are bankers and business people, and if you want us to survive, we desperately need more board members for our board, and we got them. The governance situation, we never were really cited formally for that. It was just a warning, but we resolved it. So if we're talking about facts, a lot of what you read in the media, a lot of what you're seeing in the documents from the State Board of Education are not facts. They are assumptions, accusations, disparaging, disrespectful comments, and they're being made. I stand before you and say, I know how to open a charter school. I know how to engage in community recruiting for enrollment. I know how to hire. I know how to interview. So if we're going to talk about me as the problem, I ask that we get more specific and say exactly what the concerns are. Otherwise, we are just keeping a situation going that was hurtful, disparaging. I'm a taxpayer. I'm an educator with 27 years of experience, most of it in North Carolina, and I'm humbly asking for a fair shot where we're not relying on the media's accounting of things when we have documents that establish what really happened.
So I'm going to try to bring us back here. Again, today's vote is a reconsideration of what the state board voted. And what we heard and read in terms of deliberations that the state board had about this applicant. Are there any other comments or questions?
I would make a comment that I haven't always agreed with the state board, certainly, with the decisions that they've made, but I haven't observed them being disparaging in the past. And this seems to be an unusual situation. There's something different about this school or about this application than we've seen in other instances where the state board decided not to approve. I certainly believe that there's a need here, and I was very persuaded that there's a need. I'm not confident that this board can run a school effectively. And so I think in the first time I saw this, I was persuaded by the need and by experience, but the experience I've learned to suspect was not everything I thought it was initially.
So,
And so I would be inclined to vote no this time, although I have voted yes in the past.
Chair Friend?
I'm going to let us
Okay.
have a little
Sorry, I
deliberation.
apologize.
I take that back. How much time do they have left
We have 10 minutes left for discussion.
for our
Yeah.
discussion?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Dr. Danielson. I think that I will say that having read this application many times and knowing the area they want to serve, I don't think need is the question. I think it's there. I will say that I wasn't around on this board, or the former CSAP board, with all of the, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what to believe. So much of this application is being talked about from a former school and parties that were involved. I feel like each time that we're here, we spend as much time listening about what happened in Bertie as we do about this application.
I agree.
And I don't, Ms. Bazemore, Dr. Bazemore, excuse me, talks about the unawareness of facts. Yeah, I feel that way right here. I'm not sure I know what to believe. Here's what I do know. I believe that Dr. Bazemore is very passionate about the desire to serve these kids and these students. I don't question that. I also know, though, that the person that has been referenced, Ms. White, is a person who was on the state board, who's a person of great integrity. And we could not have asked for a better champion for school choice on the state board. Both of those two things can be true. I think they are. I mean, I've learned, and maybe this is my own, maybe I should have done my homework more more deeply, excuse me, but I learned from the state board deliberations about some of the financial issues that I wasn't aware of at the past school. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I just feel like there's something else I'm missing. And if the financials were satisfied in 2017,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned the OCS would have a record of that, right?
Yes, ma'am. And all of our audits were clean.
So I need to verify that with OCS. I know, Ashley, you weren't here at the time. I do know
I was
that.
not here at the time. I would have to look back at.
I
So
will
if you could find that.
humbly suggest that you consider the votes last December of people who were on CSAB, who were a part of the process in 2018. Those were people like Dave Machado, Rita Hare, Eric Sanchez, and these were people who, even after what happened in 2018, when they reconsidered this application, they voted to approve it. And so what I would humbly say is I specifically asked, will we be given a fair consideration if we submit an application and $1,000, and we didn't do it once, we did it twice. And I'm humbly gonna say again, I received my undergraduate degree and my Bachelor of Science in ELA and Social Studies, middle grades education from East Carolina. I received my Master of School Administration at NC State. I received my PhD in Educational Research and Policy Analysis, NC State, and my law degree from UNC Chapel Hill. And every time I listen to people describe me as a person incapable, I have to honestly fight back tears, because I'm not just passionate, I'm capable. And I'm not just capable, I'm highly capable. And I'm not just qualified, I'm highly qualified. And so it is so hurtful when I pay attention to everything. And I look at the school, like the one down in Rocky Mount, that is still open when they've been low performing for so many years, and now they have all of this money missing. We never had a situation like that. Our audits were clean, and it just troubles me. I'm gonna ask the co-founder, Mrs. Bazemore, who retired from DPI as the chief of testing, and if you don't wanna hear from her, if I can just introduce her. She was our testing coordinator. She was the reason every child ate free every day. We were on the community eligibility program with the federal child nutrition program. We received more federal grants while our doors were open than any other charter school, thanks to Mrs. Bazemore. We are capable individuals, educators. She had 30 years of experience, and 23 of those years were in this building as the head of testing. And so I just want these things on the record. And that included the budget.
And Dr. Bazemore, I am, and respectfully, I've given you
I understand.
far more time
No,
than we were.
thank you.
So that I'm not, please don't think I'm trying to like.
I understand, Mr. Frank.
Be curt, but we've
Thank
got to
you.
have our deliberations.
Thank you.
Other thoughts, comments? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would move that this reconsideration, well, first of all, let me ask, does this motion have to be by somebody who previously, well, I would, I'd like to make a motion that this reconsideration, that we not accept this reconsideration. I guess it's not a reconsideration now, it's that we not accept this application.
Well, it would be a, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, it would be, we're not going to reconsider.
Well, is it a reconsideration? Because we're
Well,
not
it's
the
a
same organization that we were
reconsider-
when we
it's a re-
considered it the first time.
Yeah, it's a not, it's a wait, I think what you're trying to say is a motion to not reconsider the decision that the state board has made.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to
Do that.
make that motion. Yes. I'd like to make the motion that we not reconsider the State Board of Education's decision.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to not reconsider the state board's decision on Heritage Collegiate's application. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ashley, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Stephen Gay,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Approved.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Shelley Shope,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
John Eldridge.
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously.
I would like to give this board notice that I will be contacting the U.S. Department of Education next. This is so unfair. Thank you.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
I
sorry,
just,
sorry, not too quick.
I was asked to just, clarify one thing, that it will be going out in a newsletter, but we've been getting lots of questions, a few clarifications on recent legislation, real quick. Are charters included in the new computer science requirement for graduation? Yes, you are. More information will be coming. Are charters required to offer a 3-year graduation option? No. You may do so if you choose to, but you are not required. You're not part of that legislation. Are charters allowed to offer more than state requirements for graduation? Yes. Okay, other schools, other traditionals are not allowed to, but you are exempt from that. So if you would like to have met, like above minimum requirements, you may. And we will get that in writing and send it out to schools. Thank you.
You're saying that regular high schools, like traditional high schools, are not able to offer more than the state required?
I believe that's what the legislation says.
That is correct.
They're not allowed to require more than 22.
Yes,
Right.
the state
That is
requirement.
correct.
And I know a lot of our charter schools have
And
26, 28
we-
credit requirements.
26.
Yeah.
We weren't included in that legislation
What's the
until
point of that?
pretty late in the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there has been, you know, it's never really, you know, super clear at first, but we got clarity from legal, so that information will be coming out, just in our newsletter and to charter school leaders. But if you have further questions, let us know. We are also going to be getting out a FAQ to all of the charter schools about parental leave. You still have some time to opt into that if you so choose to. And transportation grant information will also be coming out in the next few weeks, so be on the lookout for that.
Actually, is that pool of money any bigger this year, or is it the same?
I have to look. I don't believe it is any bigger.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now you can do a motion to adjourn.
Well, before we do that, can we do a quick summary of what our next meeting and remind us what we have on the agenda?
Yes, and I will be sending out some follow-up for you as well, but the next meeting will be November 6th and 7th. We'll send out a draft agenda to you soon. You will have, on the first day, the 6th, you will have the 3 movement school applications, and then we will start the charter school renewal interviews. So Jenna will do an overview of that, and then we'll start our interviews. If you recall from last year, we've allotted each school 20 minutes. They do a short presentation. We've asked them to really focus on their academics and if they have any subgroup data they would like to share. Now that is part of the data analysis. And then on the second day, you will have one application, which is Height Leadership Academy. They are a new EMO, although I believe it's similar to an EMO that works with one of our current schools. But we would have allotted more time for them to present to you. And then we will have many renewal interviews that day. And again, we're starting with the 3 years and the non-renewal recommendations.
Okay, so just as a reminder too then, Ms. Rackley, when do we need to get to you the secondary questions for Sledge?
And the other one.
And the other one from yesterday's.
Murder.
Yeah.
So we have the final, you've submitted from the 3 from September, and so we're gonna go ahead and get those out to those applicants. I would think that you could do it before the November
Okay.
meeting.
Are you okay if I do this, if you want me to take the lead on that again and do a Google Doc?
Sure.
Can we get their
if that-
budget before that,
Yes.
for Sledge?
I'll go ahead and request that like immediately.
That's question number 1 on that list.
Okay.
But if they have it, like, ready,
Yeah.
Now.
what?
Okay.
And as a reminder, all the second rounds will happen in December. So you have 2 more months till then. And right now we have Carolina Achieve, Liberty Charter, Triad, Murda Simpson, and Sledge Institute. So 5 second rounds coming. And I'm going to send you this updated schedule in just a bit.
So we're trying to keep it right, a recap, we approved Cross North to go into RTO. Infinity Steam we denied, Murtis and Sledge are getting second interviews.
Correct.
And ALA Monroe is also going into RTO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
You got a motion.
All right.
You got the same?
We don't need to do a roll call. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Lobbing that out there.